Welcome to Emerging Franchise Brands, the podcast that introduces you to the visionary founders of America's fastest growing franchise opportunities. We'll also hear from industry pros as they share insights on what it really takes to achieve the elusive milestone of 100 plus locations. I am your host, Frank Fiume, founder of I9 Sports, and my 20-year journey from inception to acquisition has given me a unique perspective on how to succeed in franchising. Join me as we welcome today's guest. Before I start today's show, I have exciting news for founders, CEOs, and franchise brand presidents. Join me January 14th through the 16th, 2025 in Tampa for the first ever Emerging Franchise Brands live event, an exclusive opportunity designed just for you. It's my blueprint for success at every stage of franchising, one I wish I'd had, packed with real-world solutions and strategies to solve your challenges today and prepare for those you'll face tomorrow. Space is limited, so head over to emergingfranchisebrands.com to secure your spot today. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Emerging Franchise Brands podcast. On today's show, I have the president of Fowling Warehouse, Brad Chapman. Brad, how are you today?
I'm doing well, Frank. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. It's great to have you on the show. This is probably the most unique franchise concept that I've had on the show in the year plus that we've been doing this. So let's start out, Brad, telling us what in the world is Fowling Warehouse?
Well, fowling, the sport of fowling is a mix between, horseshoes, bowling, and football, to simplify it. So essentially, you have your boards set up, spaced apart, with full sets of bowling pins on each side, and then teams on either side. And the goal is with one football for the opposing team to knock down the opponent's pins before they knock all of yours down, throwing the ball back and forth.
This sounds like it could get really competitive. And I know back in the day with my friends, it would have got aggressive.
Oh, if you have an ounce of competition in your body, you're going to love fowling.
Is there anything more American than fowling?
I don't think so.
It's like, it shouldn't just be hot dogs, baseball, apple pie. It's got to be hot dogs, fowling, and apple pie.
We're lobbying for that right now. Trying to amend that. So we'll see what we can do, but...
That's great. All right, Brad, tell us, first of all, how did this whole thing come to be? This is a fairly new sport, I imagine. I've never heard of it. So how did this whole thing originate?
So, way back in over 20 years ago, let's just say, a group of friends and I, we all go to the Indy 500. That's kind of our holiday. Every Memorial Day, we go to the race. Because, most of us are from Detroit, Detroiters are very inventive. So whenever we would show up at our tailgate, our neighbors were always waiting to go, what are the boys from Detroit showing up with this year? Be it a 13-foot tall Plinko board or rubber duck races that are mirrored like the Indy Speedway or you name it, always something. So one year we decided, well, let's just build a bowling alley in the middle of our tailgate. Why not? So we built this great bowling alley, and things were going just fine until we realized there's no ball catchment system. So suddenly we're whizzing 16-pound bowling balls into the neighbor's tailgate. That didn't go over too well. So fast forward, we put the bowling balls away. That evolves into, some tailgating shenanigans of larger gentlemen on mini bikes riding down the bowling alley, taking out the bowling pins, just good fun tailgating stuff.
Okay, I love that.
So later in the day, we're playing catch with a football. An errant football goes over someone's head, boom, hits the bowling pins. Well, we all looked at each other and onto our school bus we went, sat down and hashed out the rules of fowling. And bowling was born then.
Was there alcohol involved during these writing up of the rules of fowling?
Frank, there may have been. I have no response to that. But let's just say tailgating and There actually, I will just to be fully transparent. Rule number one when Fowling was invented: if you're not drinking, you're cheating. So we've evolved away from that, and the official rules are a little bit different. But yeah, that was on the rule list back in the day.
Okay, so there's a group of you. You're having a great time. You're writing up the rules of this game. You have no vision yet for what this is going to turn into, right?
No, it's just something fun. So we left Indy that year, and our founder, Chris Hutt, really was like, guys, this is so cool. So he used to just keep folding boards in his truck, pins in his truck, footballs, and every Lions tailgate or a concert at our local concert theater, Pine Knob, he would show up and set up folding boards. And folks would just flock to him. What is this? I want to play. Can I get involved somehow, some way? So after years of just taking Fowling around and having fun with it, we all started kind of discussing internally, I wonder if this is something that we could actually monetize. So being Detroit back in the day, kind of dipped our toe in the water and rented an abandoned toy warehouse. It basically the most dangerous zip code in the United States at the time. We acquired 14,000 square feet for $1,000, and the landlord was like, okay, best of luck to you guys. And he set up some folding boards and just said, all right, let's see what happens. BYOB, if people will show up, great. And the first night 100 people showed up at $10 a head, we covered rent. How about that? So we had that going for a couple of years, and it kept growing and growing and growing in popularity. This is kind of more of an underground thing to do in Detroit,
Right. This has like a speakeasy feel to it.
Exactly. Special knock. All of the above. So eventually, after a couple of years, the neighborhood realized what was going on. And let's just say some of the nefarious folks around the neighborhood were definitely coming to check things out. And it was time to move. But at that point in time, we said, all right, I think we can do this. So we acquired a warehouse in 2014, a square foot warehouse in Hamtramck, which is a neighborhood of Detroit. And opened our first warehouse with a liquor license and completely legitimized it. And it was immediately a hit. We were on Discovery Channel and all kinds of different media outlets throughout the years with folks just like, wow, this is so cool. Wow. And I kind of attribute it like we found an opportunity, we developed it. And in a way, this is kind of what, as we've grown up or as people grow up, we hear about this American dream. Mm-hmm. This is kind of the American dream, stumbling across something, developing it, and turning it into something that is an outlet for people that can have fun, competition, and put away those screens for a few minutes and really enjoy themselves as human beings, which we're so connected to our screens these days. That's harder and harder for people to do.
Yeah. What year was this? You guys opened the large warehouse?
We opened in 2014. We're actually in a couple of weeks, we'll be celebrating our 10-year anniversary there.
My goodness, that's amazing. Now, I would imagine, since my original background in sports is running an adult men's softball league in New York, in Long Island.
Okay.
And so when I first franchised my concept, one of the big pushbacks I got from people was, can you really make money doing this? Nobody really understood. So I would imagine there's a level of similarity here between both of our companies, since it's adult sports, and can I really see this thing working? Is that one of the thoughts behind this for people when they were even looking at this? I'm talking before franchising. Were you guys really thinking about expanding this? Can we really make money doing this on a large scale?
Yeah, that was obviously a big part of it. Hey, we can't just, throw the money away. We have to make this work. And luckily, with a lot of hard work, just trying to revamp a 106-year-old warehouse in Detroit. Used to be the old Dana Convell axle factory. So let's just say it took a lot of work and a lot of sweat equity to do that, because we didn't quite have the budget to just pay somebody to come in and build it out. So a lot of it was done with family, friends, and sweat equity to get the doors open in that Fowling Warehouse.
All right, so you guys are working along. Everything is moving and grooving. You guys are growing. What were you doing full time during this period?
I was actually in California. My previous career prior to running the franchise program, I was in infrastructure development for the major wireless carriers, working on special coverages, thing like the development of 5G for Verizon and special events like Super Bowls and things like that. So I was 27 years in infrastructure development out west.
Okay, and then who has the idea? Hey guys, we should franchise this. When's that defining moment? Where does this come into place?
When we just started really seeing the numbers that were coming out of the Detroit location, we said, hey, I think this is something that we could do. So for a while there was a lot of just brainstorming and if you will, board meetings to kind of lay out the groundwork for that. And then in 2018, we ended up opening up Fowling Franchise LLC and starting the franchise program.
And well, most of us don't have a franchise background. You didn't have a franchise background like 99% of us when we franchise. How did you come to be then becoming the president of the company and stepping up, and you were leaving a career to take a pretty big risk?
A huge risk. I was mortified, but it's been great. I think it's one of those things. It's a little bit without risk, without taking risk, rewards don't necessarily always come.
Absolutely.
So, that's just part of it right there. But faith in the sport of Fowling, faith in the excitement that we've seen people get when they come across Fowling. Their mind is blown. They love bowling. They love football. How can you merge this together and not be successful?
Yeah, right.
Yep.
Absolutely. One of the questions I usually ask people is, what makes your business unique compared to others in the industry? But that question does not apply to you, of course. Is it safe to assume, though, you guys have the trademarks and any patents on Fowling?
Yes. Absolutely. That was the first thing we did when deciding to franchise the program.
Well, that's awesome that you guys are, built a moat, so to speak. Mm-hmm. In franchising, it doesn't take long before people start sniffing around and they can figure out, hey, if somebody's making money doing this, we're gonna jump aboard and compete with them.
Yep. Always something we're very aware of and tracking.
Yeah, well, you guys have definitely have a unique spot here. What was life like first becoming a franchisor in a concept that had never been done before? And how did you find your first half dozen franchisees? I mean, that's where you are right now. We have 6 franchise locations and 2 company owned. So how did that all come out to be?
A lot of, learning. First and foremost, I had to educate myself. Our team had to educate ourselves. Surrounding yourself with people smarter than you is always a great thing too. Bringing in those experts that have been through it and, utilizing their lessons learned to avoid pitfalls in your future to the best of your ability. Because as you know, in franchising, you don't know what you don't know until you don't know it, but it'll pop up eventually, right?
Sure will. And where did you find your first franchisees, the first half dozen?
First franchisee is in Cincinnati, and that was actually through a friend of our founders. He had put together a group. They were actually Fowling fans. We had shared it with them years prior, and they ended up doing Fowling tournaments in their neighborhood, just like as kind of a neighborhood party thing. Mm-hmm. And again, the folks that were playing were like, this is amazing. We're having such a great time. We should do something with it. So eventually they put together an investment group, and that was our first franchise. And from there, it's really been organic, word of mouth. There wasn't a huge electronic campaign. It was really people finding Fowling, seeing Fowling, and then reaching out and saying, I would like to be a part of this, and developing a program with them, or, initially vetting them out. There are always a lot of tire kickers in the franchise world.
Of course.
But once you validate, you just start from there. And like I said, it's exciting.
Well, you've gotten attention from people all over. So you've got 8 total locations across 7 states. So you're definitely starting to get that penetration around the country. Even outside the Midwest now, from what you gathered, right? We have Michigan, Ohio, Indiana, Texas, Georgia, Nebraska, and Missouri. So
correct.
Yeah, we have growth all over. What's the investment range of the franchise, and how big is the footprint of a typical franchise warehouse, I assume, right?
Yeah, so we have warehouses ranging from 25,000 square feet all the way to our Dallas location, which is 70,000 plus square feet. Everything's always bigger in Texas, as we know. So
of course, it's got to be that. It had to be Texas with the largest location.
Of course. But, in general, around 30,000 square feet is ideal, and our range for the build out and getting everything ready to go to open the doors were anywhere between 1.7 million and 2.8 million.
Okay. Help walk me through what a typical warehouse looks like for the audience, besides obviously the folding lanes. How big is like the way the restaurants are set up, bars? What are some of the amenities that you guys have?
So part of our brand perspective is industrial strength fun. We want to give a nod to that industrial background of Detroit, where, we always say born in Indy, raised in Detroit for full. Detroit was the mecca of manufacturing back in the day. So we wanted to give a nod to our heritage. So as you walk in, the first thing that the customers see is just the scale. They're like, oh my gosh, this place is huge. We keep it very, concrete floors, nothing real special, shiny, blingy. We built rinks to house the Fowling lanes to keep balls in perspective, if you will, and not whizzing into the bar or things like that. A lot of metal and a lot of our tabletops, things like that, are mirrored after old bowling lanes. So, our first bar we actually built out of rock maple bowling lanes, and a few hundred saw blades and sanding discs later, we learned we need to figure out how to make that a little more efficient. But we definitely give that nod to industrial strength fun and just a fun atmosphere.
Okay. Brad, who's your ideal franchise owner?
Ideal franchise owner is, first and foremost, they love the sport. They are funded appropriately to give the franchise the best chance they can. As we know in the franchise world, some folks that may come in underfunded, it's always a struggle, and then they kind of drop down. So somebody who's passionate about the sport, funded, and has a desire to grow with the business. We're still young. We're still, even after quite a few years, I say we're still in our infancy, if you will. And as the word spreads, we're going to evolve more into those institutional folks that want to do multiple locations and tie in their, 3 or 4 locations within the AFA, the American Fowling Association, which is also another spinoff company. We
have a sanctioning body, do we?
We absolutely do. The governing body of Fowling is the American Fowling Association.
That's great. What about let's paint the picture of really what it takes to be successful as a franchise owner, because we all know it. Loving the sport is one thing, but that's not gonna get the turnstiles spinning. And that, to me, is the blessing and curse of most businesses where there's a love of the product or service. I know it was in my case where people love sports, so they wanted to own the business. But as we all know, you're not going to be playing the sport, or you're not going to be coaching the sport. You're going to be doing marketing, management, operations, finance, technology. the nuts and bolts of actually being a successful business owner. If you could share with the audience here, like, what are some of those traits they need to be successful? What does their day-to-day look like?
Well, your day-to-day is you spend a lot of time at the warehouse, but traits that I'm looking for: organized, financial, having financial wherewithal, kind of a type A personality. When you transition from, for example, like myself, from more of the corporate world into a franchise or your own business, you really have to be looking at all the things, not only right in front of you, but a few steps out,
Sure.
and anticipating things. So that person is just kind of well-rounded. Now, if they show that they're a smart person, that they can adapt to situations, they are properly funded. Our training program, our operations program is very robust. We can get you the knowledge that you need to become a successful franchise owner. We spend a lot of time making sure that folks and their staff are trained appropriately and reflect the love and passion of our sport that we have to the new markets that we're going into.
Okay. I know we have a smaller sampling, but I'm curious to know, of your franchise owners that you have currently, is this their first go around in owning a business, or if they owned others? What, give me kind of a consensus of
There's
what
a little mix of both, but most have left their corporate world job, partnered up with investment group investors, be it friends, family, or wherever they've acquired their investment group, and made the transition from being under that corporate umbrella to an independent proprietor.
Sweet. You did make reference to owning multiple units. Is that part of the franchise agreement now, where they can buy a multi-pack of units, or are you only open? You are.
Yes, we can. Okay. You can either do an individual one-off, or we can do a development agreement for up to 5 locations.
Okay. And how far apart do you anticipate having locations geographically?
It really depends on population. Some markets could actually have a few locations in it. A bigger market, let's just say, for example, New York, LA, something like that, with huge populations like that, you can geographically space them. And I think that's very exciting from that perspective, because now not only do you have the AFA and your league play locally, but now you can kind of push your different locations and have your own AFA tournaments, as well as then vet out the top players that would go into our AFA National Championship. So that's held in April every year. And this year it's in Cincinnati. I believe on April 19th is our national championship, where all the Fowling Warehouse location league, top 4 teams from their leagues will converge on Cincinnati, and somebody will leave with the silver cup of the national championship.
Nice. I knew once you said you had the sanctioning body, I'm like, oh, here we go. I know there's going to be a national tournament, and there's going to be a national championship coming down the pike.
Folks love our tournaments. We do some fun things, like back in the day before we were franchising, we do what we call here in Detroit the Kraut Cup. And the only reason it's called the Kraut Cup is we realized at the last minute we didn't have a trophy.
Okay.
And somebody grabbed a 5-pound can of sauerkraut from a shelf, and we just put bowling champion on it. And it's just kind of stuck. Our prizes and trophies now are a little bit better than a 5-pound can of sauerkraut. But
all right. Well, no, the sauerkraut
that's coming up soon, actually.
That's great. Brad, what's the long-term vision for the company? First off, how many Fowling warehouses do you anticipate around the country, as you've thought about kind of building out nationwide?
No, we have a projection over the next 3 to 5 years of anywhere between 40 and 70. And that may be in North America too, because we do have some interest in Canada, across Canada too. So we are registered internationally on every continent except for Antarctica. So, we've laid our groundwork. In anticipation, this is not just going to be a United States thing. This is
Sure.
is actually going to go across the pond, if you will.
Right, right. How do you guys evaluate, besides just population, I assume, which are the best markets, like selecting potential market expansion?
Well, you have to look at the demographic of the market, different ages, things like that. The great thing about Fowling is anybody can really play, from the very young children all the way up to, we've had 80th birthday parties, and they wanted to go Fowling with their family, and they were Fowling.
Right.
So really anybody can play. So outside of the demographics, and age, bowling is an opportunity for anybody to really have fun.
Yeah. What about the concept of, somebody might say, oh, this is great, but I think it might be a novelty. It's going to wear off. And talk about how the repeat business has impacted impacted you guys in a positive way, and people play this again and again.
Well, with the development of the AFA and the league play, we're finding the culture of Fowling in these new markets. That's really, they are called Fowlers, and our Fowlers are very loyal. We love them to death. They are just a special breed of folks, and men, women, any gender, we're open. We're very inclusive with anyone. And, everybody loves to play Fowling. And like I said earlier, if you have just an ounce of competition in your body, the minute that football leaves your hands, you're like, first thing you do is go, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Second thing they say is, oh my gosh, this is harder than it looks.
I bet. First of all, it just has to be there's such satisfaction probably of knocking the pins down with a football.
Yeah. Yeah. And the noise.
Exactly.
And really, when you look at the game, so you're playing on your lane against the other team, right?
Mm-hmm.
The rule in Fowling is a pin down is a pin down. So not only are you playing on your lane, but when we have 20 lanes on either side of you playing, you're also playing defense. The other ball's whizzing in or a pin coming over,
right?
And you have to defend against that, because if you're down to one pin and one pin, and all of a sudden a errant football comes whizzing over and knocks your pin down, you just lost.
Oh, so you're looking out for missiles coming in from the side.
Absolutely. You have to defend against your neighbor's play too. Yeah.
This is insanity. I've got to see this. It's kind of
funny. Like on league nights, when I'm watching or even if I'm playing, I always kind of attribute it to like a ballet. Right. Where you see the leaguers kind of dancing around, because not only are they playing, they're throwing, but then they're dancing around and they're kind of protecting against the other balls coming in. And,
right.
It's amazing how fast the ball can move when it hits that pin and shoots sideways.
Oh, man. So if I'm a Fowler, I'm up. I'm kind of side-eyeing what's going on around me at the same time. I got to be very aware what's going on.
Absolutely. Yep.
So you get guys kind of looking at each other, right? Side to side, knowing who's gonna go first.
Yep.
And kind of
then the first
you're pump faking probably, right?
Yep. Oh yeah. There's all kinds of that. And when you're in the league play, there's a lot heavier competition. You don't want people going like this, waving hands. There's a little bit more respect there. But the average family coming out for Fowling, the kids are messing with their parents and trying to get them to miss however they can.
Of course.
So you can't defend against the ball being thrown at you. You can't reach in front of the throwing line to defend against that ball. It has to cross the back line before you can grab that ball.
Okay. There's got to be a little bit of trash talking, though.
A little bit? There's plenty.
From a marketing perspective, I think I know who your target audience is, but from a marketing perspective, Brad, who are you marketing to? What is that demographic? That's the sweet spot for you guys.
The 23 to 49 age range has been kind of our target demographic. Like I said, there are others that fall into that category too. But if I had to just kind of predominantly say that age range, that would be it. And believe it or not, we see more women come in than men. Right now, it's about 55-45% right now, women versus men.
That is fantastic. That's great for the health of the business for sure.
Yep. And of course, our corporate partners and corporate parties, team building events, we are a great place for fundraising. When we go into a community, we really want to be a part of the community. So we're definitely a good steward when it comes to charitable events where, open play is $15, all you can play the whole day. If you came in Saturday at noon and stayed till 2 a.m., $15, you can play as much as you want. So what we'll do with some fundraising partners or things like that is say, okay, this is X. You can sell tickets for whatever you want for your charity, and then you take the profit off the difference. So we find that a lot of places that are looking to do charitable events, they come right to the Fowling Warehouse to have that happen.
Hey, Brad, when you're talking to potential franchise owners and they're kind of doing their due diligence, of course, we don't want there to be any surprises in franchising. What are some of the things that you share with them that they need to consider before going forward and forward with you to open a franchise?
They need to make sure that this is something they really want to do. As you may or may not know, being a small business owner takes a lot of work. And, we've refined our construction and build out process, going from when we built our first location in Hamtramck with sweat equity in our own hands, that took 14, 15 months to figure it out and get that location open. Post-COVID, I can get a location open from building permit issuance to doors opening in 5 months.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Since you've been franchising now for, going on 6 years. What would you say has been one of the biggest surprises that you've come across in franchising? What was something you just weren't expecting when you first started franchising this?
Ooh, I mean, there's always something popping up, but I think the biggest surprise and challenge we had to overcome was COVID. Here we are, a new company. We had a couple of locations open, but then during COVID, we were under construction for 2 locations and opened. So, that was the moment for us where there was a lot of anxiety, like, is COVID going to kill all of this, or are we going to pull out? Now, as a franchisor, and just a little bit of my background in infrastructure development, I actually took it as an opportunity. So looking at our program, saying, okay, the first one took 14 months to get open and was X number of dollars. Now we're in COVID. We have labor shortages. The prices have skyrocketed through the roof. How can I figure out how to make it more efficient, bring those costs back down and really streamline the program? So actually, in a way, like, people say I'm crazy for saying it, but COVID was a little bit of a blessing for us to kind of put our ducks back in a row and re-look at our program and optimize it in a better way. And one perfect example is our rinks. Our rinks are welded steel with netting, and it would take 3 months initially to stick build these rinks inside the warehouse. Well, during COVID, we ended up redesigning the rinks where they still had the same look and feel, utilizing different metals, prefabricating everything, and then making bolt-together panels. I can now have a rink built in my warehouse in 5 to 9 days.
Wow, that is amazing.
And actually a significant cost reduction from the initial cost of stick building the rink.
Wow. I've heard time and time again, talking to other franchise brand presidents and founders and CEOs, that they had so many breakthroughs during COVID. We obviously would never want to experience that again, but I don't remember a time in franchising where where folks had such an opportunity. Of course, we had time to internalize things and look at our systems and processes, but people got so much better coming out of COVID as a result of being able to internalize, because sometimes we're just going, and we don't have time to really reflect on what's going well, what's not going well. And COVID gave us the opportunity to do just that. Your story is something that I have heard again and again, and there was a lot of good that came out of it.
There is. We have to take the positive spin on COVID. It was challenging, but there are a lot of positive things that did come out of it too.
Yeah, for sure. Brad, I can't wait for you to open a location in the Tampa Bay area. I will definitely check it out. For folks, though, that are looking to open a franchise, if they wanted to get more information on Fowling, where would they go?
Well, you can go to our website, www.fowlingwarehouse.com, and click on the franchise link there. And that's going to give all of our frequently asked questions. And if you have more interest and want to inquire further, you just fill out the form there, and we will immediately get back with you, and we can start talking about our opportunity with them and Fowling.
Awesome. Brad, I always finish every podcast with what I call the franchise tip jar, because the franchise community is so generous with sharing information and giving tips and tricks to others that are coming into franchising. So if you were talking to an entrepreneur that wanted to franchise their concept, what would be maybe a piece of advice you'd give them before they jump in?
Do your homework. Research, learn, compare. And if you have a new thing, a new sport or whatever it may be, like we had, there's nothing really to compare to, but do the best you can to see, what are the positives, what are the pitfalls. And I will say, whenever you plan on having a budget, add 20% to that. Just whatever it is, always have 20% more than you actually have, because you never know what's going to come out of the blue. Legal fees or this or that, refinements that you want to do that will make your business better. It's always great to have that funding in place.
Brad, that's great. Great advice. I wish you all the best with Fowling Warehouse. Again, I'm super excited for you and the brand, and look forward to coming to the Tampa area one day.
You are the first one on my list in Tampa. We're going to be Fowling together soon.
All right. I'm going to let it rip, and I'm going to trash talk too.
All right. Bring it. We love it.
All right, Brad.
It's your face right now with that smile. That's what got me into this business, because it's so nice walking around a busy warehouse during the fall, winter holiday party. You see 300, 400, 500 people playing and not stuck on their phone or looking down.
Right.
They're engaged in the game. And that is something that is it's special these days, because folks are so connected electronically. This is a perfect outlet to let those electronic connections go and have some friendly competition.
It is. Brad, you guys have created just an incredible, unique experience. We need something new. We certainly need an outlet that gets us away from our phones and technology. And thank you for what you guys have brought. And I look forward to you guys blowing this thing up nationwide, man.
We're looking forward to it. And thank you for having me today. This has been really fun.
Thank you for tuning into the Emerging Franchise Brands podcast. For additional insights, guest applications, and to stay connected, visit us at efbpodcast.com. The Emerging Franchise Brands podcast is for entertainment purposes only, and the views expressed do not necessarily represent those of Emerging Franchise Brands, its host Frank Fiume, or Emerging Franchise Group, LLC. Any discussed franchise or investment opportunity requires thorough investigation, obtaining proper disclosure documents, and expert consultation before making any investment decisions. The podcast and its host do not offer professional advice or endorsements, and they hold no responsibility for actions, representations, accuracy, or consequential damages related to the podcast content.